That is delicious. Man, welcome back, YouTube. In the building. Or in your home. Maybe you're in your car listening. What's up, folks? It's been a minute since I've live streamed. I've actually been sick all week, which you could probably still hear in my voice. But I did not want to leave you, as the famous Rakim said. What's up, Infinite Games? How you living, man? Rakim said, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. And I feel like I've done that. I feel like I've left you guys hanging. I'm drinking like a gallon of water straight up. King Hill, what's happening, man? Because I've been sick all week. Got tested for strep throat yesterday. Came back negative, but they still gave me antibiotics. So, and I have tonight's kind of a dry run. What's up, Pascal? Tonight is kind of a dry run for a paid call that I'm doing tomorrow with a bunch of my clients. So I want to make sure that I'm actually able to maintain my presence, my poise, the charisma, all those good things that you all look for. Fortunately, I was diagnosed as not having strep throat, but they gave me antibiotics just as a precaution, I guess. So tonight we've got a really interesting conversation. Tonight's video, the title actually comes from a conversation that I had with somebody on Facebook who sent me the question, which is what led to the title. Actually sent me quite a long description of their situation. I'm not going to name names. They asked me if I made a video about this to keep the identities of the people out of it, so I will. I won't name any names. I won't give any of the intensely specific details. I will share a bit of the challenges that they're having in their relationship, some ideas that I have for her and for anybody else who may be dealing with similar things. Because when you've been on Earth a good while, and one of my mentors, may he rest in peace, taught this for years, because he passed in his 90s, back in the 90s, I think. He passed, or in the early 2000s. And the thing he used to teach as he got older as a teacher was, he's like, when you've been on Earth as long as me, you realize that it all goes in cycles. Like the stuff we were fussing about 50 years ago, same stuff we're fussing about today, just has a different skin on it. Or as Gary Vaynerchuk says, the trappings all change, but the principles are still the same. You know, we call social media now the way we communicate online, but it's not new. Social media is not a new thing. We've been doing that. It's funny, like I was telling some of the people in my marketing program, in my Ninja Academy, I was like, you realize Let's Plays aren't anything new. I said, you guys think Let's Plays where, or you guys think YouTube is where Let's Plays started? And I was like, no, not even close. I said, Let's Plays for me was the 1980s and 1990s going into an arcade. I remember 1992-ish as a kid, and going into a video arcade and watching the little Asian kid. It was always little Asian kid. I don't know why, but it just was. Murder everybody in Street Fighter 2. Could just wipe the floor with grown men. It would be like a little Asian kid. And, you know, in 2017, that's like racist, right? But in 1999, that was just the reality, was these little Asian kids are beasts at Street Fighter 2. And they would dust. And so we would basically huddle around the arcade cabinet and watch this kid. I remember being at the beach, watching this kid dust off grown men at Street Fighter 2, like it wasn't even close. And I think I may have even tried to play him at some point, but that was Let's Plays. You know, that was almost 30 years ago, and you're talking about what we call Let's Plays now. That was just, you know, that was just the way it happened back then. It just wasn't on the internet. And so we think all these things are new, and they're just not. A lot of the issues that you're experiencing in life, Will Smith talks about this in some of his interviews, where he says, you know, it's really interesting. We get into these problems in life, and then we're so arrogant as to think that nobody else has been through this problem. He's like, no, people for thousands of years have had the same problems. And he's like, and chances are somebody wrote down the solution in a book. So if I just go read the book, I can figure out how to solve this for myself. Right? So, I think the discussion tonight will be useful for all of you, not just for the people in this relationship challenge specifically. But again, we'll keep the details out of it. But it's an ESFJ who is dating an ENTJ, and there's a lot of challenges in terms of they don't live close together, so it's a long distance relationship. the ESFJ is the one that wrote me the message about the ENTJ, and she was kind of thinking, and I can say she, I'm not going to name any names, but she was like, you're an ENTJ man, maybe you can help me understand a little bit about what the man in this relationship is going through, or maybe what he's experiencing, or why we're having these challenges. So it's a long distance relationship. The man had a really bad breakup with someone that he deeply cared about, who he called the love of his life. And then after her, had another woman who ended up having his first child. And that woman wants nothing to do with him, and he's limited in terms of how often he can see his child. And now he's dating the young lady who asked me to make this video. And so her concerns are, the normal concerns. Can we make this relationship work? Because it's a long distance relationship. He's a person who's addicted to his work. He's basically a workaholic. I'm pulling up the video now so I can see you guys leaving me comments in the chat. That's one thing I wish YouTube would take a page out of Facebook's Playbook and leave the comments actually on the screen when you guys send them, so I can see them perpetually. Otherwise, I have to do what I'm doing now, which is pulling up the chat on my computer, doing it this way. And so, can we make a long distance relationship work? That was the first question. And then I think I have the questions pulled up here, so I want to get into it if I can. Where is my... Yeah. So the questions are, can we make the long distance work? How can she make him understand that he has to have more time for her? So not only are they long distance, but he's been basically throwing himself into his work and working crazy hours. And they're both doctors in this particular case. Would it be possible for him to work in some aspects of his personality so he could, meet me halfway? So basically her concern is that she has so much to give from a loving perspective, and she doesn't feel it coming back the other way. She has concerns that he's not completely over the quote-unquote love of his life. He has concerns with his daughter, his baby, and he has his work, which he throws himself into, which is already kind of crazy because he's a doctor, and then, being an ENTJ, ENTJs are workaholics. When we find something that we really like, we will throw ourselves into it. I've made jokes. My wife, we were on vacation, and my wife wanted me to go into the cabin where all the other adults, so we had the kids had their own spot and the adults had a cabin. And she wanted me to go to the adult cabin. That sounds totally erotic. It's not supposed to be. But she's like, let's go to the adult cabin, and they're playing Pictionary or some board game or whatever, and let's just have some fun. And I was like, yeah, but I got to do this filming, and you and I are supposed to be filming an episode tonight for our marriage program that we were running, that we did a pilot group for. And she was like, but dude, I want to go have some fun. And I opened my mouth to speak, and she just rolled her eyes at me, and she was like, this is your fun. Your work is your fun. I get it. She's like, can you please just come have some regular human fun with us? And I said, yeah, for sure. I can do that. So I think I can provide some insight there as it relates to, can he make more time for you? Can he adjust certain tendencies in his personality type to make the relationship work a little bit more smoothly? And just this feelings of him being cold. And I think that's natural if you're dating an ENTJ, especially you being a feeler. Natural. My wife told me for years, and she still does. She's like, you are the most, how did she put it when she talks about me? She's like, you are very matter of fact when you speak. Like there is no, how does she say it? She's like, there's no buffer when you tell somebody that they're effed up. Like, you're just like, nope, you're effed up. Now do some push-ups. Like, and my son did, matter of fact, my son today came, he's like, Dad, my son's been wanting to get something to be able to download video games on his laptop. And I told him, I said, okay, you have to go through your daily regimen. When you wake up in the morning, you do your prayer time, you do your Bible reading time, you do your push-ups, you have breakfast, you brush your teeth, you get cleaned up, you go to school, you come home from school, do your homework, do your training. So he goes through my Ninja Academy that I take my clients through. He's going through it as well. I said, he's only got to watch a video a day. It's nothing crazy. And then you read a book. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to read the whole book, but read enough of a book to get a good point out of it that you can have a takeaway. And you do those things every day, and I see that you're doing them, then I'll let you download video games on your computer. And every day I have to remind him. And I said, dude, if you want to be able to download video games, you have to do this. So don't, and he was fussing at me last weekend. He was like, oh, Dad, I just want to be able to download. I said, dude, don't come back to me fussing. Seriously, ever again. When I've told you how to get this done and you're not doing your part. And he turned to me, he's like, well, Dad, you have to understand that doesn't help when you say it that way. And it kind of hurts my feelings. And it's up, you can hear one of my other children up there yelling. He's like, it kind of hurts my feelings and it embarrasses me when you say it that way. I said, okay, 2 things. Hey, buddy, what's the fuss about? All of America can hear you yelling at mommy. This is what I got to put up with. This is why I film at night. I thought I was filming at night, and nope. My children, it's like my children wake up hollering, and they just yell for 16 hours until they fall asleep. That's why. Anyway, so I told my son 2 things, and this is the ENTJ in me. I said, first, toughen up, Buttercup. You can't have your feelings getting hurt every time I tell you something you don't like to hear. You need to toughen up because the world does not care about how sensitive you are to that. And 2, I'm trying to help you by telling you you want something, you're not getting it, and if you come fussing at me again about why you're not getting it, I'm telling you why it's not happening. He didn't like that answer very much, but I don't have that, oh, it's going to be okay, son. All you have to remember is just to have faith and hope. And I'm not that dude. I'm like, dude, do what I told you to do and you'll get what you want. It's as simple as that. So as an ENTJ, I can totally understand when you're a feeler and it's sometimes hard to hear that blunt and honest, no nonsense, we don't have a filter. And we hate filtering. Like, I would never want someone to soften the blow. Like, if I screwed something up, I want to know about it so I can fix it. I'm not going to get sensitive about it. But that's a unique personality trait that we have that a lot of other people don't share. Like, you can yell at an ENTJ. You can tell an ENTJ, like, dude, I never want to date you because your breath stinks. The ENTJ will thank you for that. Oh, snap, that's why? Sweet. Now I know I need to go clean my breath up. Appreciate that. Appreciate you being real with me. We don't like things that aren't authentic. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. But those are her general questions, trying to figure out, the simple answer to her whole challenge is, can the relationship work? Yes. From everything that I've read, and there's lots of details here that I'm not going into because I don't want to put, even though you all don't know who she is, I'm not trying to put all of her business in the streets. There's a lot more to the story that I'm not going to share. Let me keep it somewhat general for those of you that are watching. But the simple answer to the question is, can the relationship work? Of course it can. I have some concerns about not so much the long distance. I think long distance relationships are only as hard as people make them. I don't think they necessarily have to be tough and hard. They just don't. And but I think there are some things that for her, and if you're watching this, for you, when it comes to dealing with an ENTJ, there's some specific things that I'm going to share with you. But the biggest concern I have about this relationship has nothing to do with either of your personality types or the fact that this is a long distance relationship. Everything in your story gives me concern about, is this dude really the right person for you? And are you trying to hold on to something because you're afraid that there may not be other opportunities for you to have somebody that's better? Because with all of, like, you're very young, so for you to have to take on so many of these challenges, the distance, he being older, him not fully being over the person that he said he was madly in love with, that he wanted to marry, him having a child with another woman and there being serious complications there. I'm concerned about all of the baggage that you're taking on. Is that really what you want? Like, is this dude so flat out amazing that you're willing to put up with those challenges? And that's really what I would ask. Like, forget about his personality type, because those are all things that if you if you take the hexaco personality test and you realize that you have a lot of flexibility, my wife and I are both very flexible. I'm a decent amount more flexible than she is, but we're both very flexible. We're above average. So we get along with each other because we don't fight over stuff. It's like, look, it's not that serious for us to be fighting over this thing. If you want to paint the house pink, fine, just do it. I don't care. You know what I mean? So personality-wise, if you have willingness and flexibility and you share similar values, you can make personality types work. But my concern with this situation is he worth the trouble that you're going to go through for the rest of your life, by the way, of wondering, did he settle because he couldn't get the woman he really, really wanted? One, you're gonna deal with asking yourself that, and maybe that's getting. In her story, she told me that that's been kind of working itself out, that he's finally emotionally moving on from this other woman, so that's good, check. But two, the issue with the baby mama drama and the baby and the for a young person who's under 30, is this dude so amazing? Like, is he the Jesus Christ of all the men you've dated to where you're willing to put it? Because if he is, then cool. If you're willing to take, like, my wife had to deal with my baggage and my family and all my issues and insecurities. But when she weighed that against the good she was getting out of the deal, it's like, yeah, he's totally worth investing in that. And vice versa. Like, she had issues growing up. My wife was abused. These are things that we all talked about long before we ever started talking about marriage. And so I was like, the upside is way, way, way bigger than the downside. So that's the first question I'd really pose to you is this dude worth all the trouble you're going to have to go through for the rest of your life, and the emotional baggage that you have to put up with there, especially with you being so young and there being over 7 billion people on the planet. My intuition tells me that chances are there are other men out there who would love to have the job and would be a lot less trouble. But again, if this is the guy, like, he's just so, and I ask that because when I read your story, I don't get the impression that he's the one, like, oh my God, he's so amazing that I'm willing to put up with all this. I get the impression that you think he might have potential to be all that, but he's not quite there, and you're afraid that if you walk away from this deal that you're going to lose, that you're going to miss out on something. And I think that's natural human fear. And that's what you have to ask yourself is this guy worth putting up with all of these challenges and putting up with the fact that you are having to ask him to pay attention to your life in a way that feels good and is comfortable for you? There's certain things that I think we shouldn't necessarily have to ask for in our relationships. We should be on the same page, and we obviously want to communicate those things, but if quality time is very important to you and you're not getting that, there's two things to consider. One, is he willing to adjust that? And two, with him being an ENTJ and the comments I had about him being a workaholic, just know that as an ENTJ, we have a tendency to obsess. So when we have a goal or a focus or something we're trying to get accomplished, I have given up time with my kids and my family to do my business work because I have to build this business. I have to build what I'm doing to help change people's lives because I feel like that's why I was put on the earth. And at certain times, that's going to come before my family. Now, my family in the big picture always comes first. But there's times where it's like, oh, I got to work. Like the family had movie night tonight. I was working. So, and they were also watching a movie that I didn't want to watch. So it was a good excuse to get out of that. But just know that as an ENTJ, he might be obsessing over something where you are going to kind of take a back seat to that. And that's something that you may, until he figures out what that thing is or he gets his life where he wants it, he's going to obsess over it until he accomplishes the goal or finishes whatever challenge that he's trying to overcome. That to a degree, you may feel as if you're taking a back seat to that. And I think that some of that's natural. So what you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to put up with that? Is that something you're willing to deal with? Is that something that's okay until he figures out the situation with his daughter and this other woman and his baby mama and all that stuff? And like I said, I think the big question for you isn't, can our personality type differences be overcome? I think any personality type can date any personality type if there's a certain amount of willingness on both parts and shared values and flexibility. But at the same time, I just, again, go back to the heart, the core question, which is this dude, is he worth it? You know, can you, if you were sitting across from me tonight and having this conversation with me, let's say we're chilling, me and my wife, and you were hanging out at Starbucks or whatever. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know. I don't know where the hangout spots are to do that type of stuff. But, you know, if you were looking me in my face and having this conversation, I asked you, is he awesome enough to be worth all the trouble you're going through? And I think if the answer is no, then you have to look at, maybe you just keep that person as an acquaintance and you see what other options you have, all right? Or if he is that amazing, because obviously he's good if he's got your attention. There's something about him that you really like. So I don't know. That's the part that I can't answer for you. So a couple things to consider for anybody that's watching and for the person that sent in that question. Thank you for the question, by the way. Let's go back to the comments section here. The comments. Let's see what we got. Infinite Game says, that's exactly how I feel. It's hard to explain that to the wife. She doesn't always get it. Yeah, for sure. My wife actually gets me. It's funny, man. I was reading this note I wrote to my wife. I think I wrote this when I was in combat or shortly before I went. I'm going to read this to you guys. So I said, Miko, and this is a really, really good book that my mentor put me onto. It's a series of books that my first spiritual mentor had me read when I went into the Army. And I wrote this in the flap of the book. It says, Miko, reading this book has helped me in my life in many ways. I hope that it will touch you the same way it touched me. This book has encouraged me to live from the heart, and that's to live by faith. It's taught me not to hold back my true self. I want you to know that you encourage me in the same way. I mean, even in the simple stuff. And I went into some details about a thing she did for me that was really nice. And this part right here is still true 15 years later. And you encourage me to just be me. I really appreciate that about you. My wife is one of the few people on the planet where I can just be all myself and never have to worry about her judging me or it rubbing her the wrong way. And that's something that I love greatly about her. And I think I wrote this to her when I was dating. I don't think we were, almost positive we weren't married at this point. But, you know, that's something that I knew I was getting into with my wife. Dark Feather says, yo, BC, how's it going? It's going great, man. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to lead with tonight. From there, I will take all of your questions. What questions dost thou? And it doesn't, your questions, like I said, as always, do not have to be related to the topic of the evening. Your questions can totally be whatever you want to ask me. If it's marketing stuff, like what I help my people in my marketing program, the YouTube Ninja Academy, the Social Media Ninja Academy, all that stuff, you guys and ladies can ask away. And I know it's been a while since, I mentioned this a little bit briefly in the beginning of the video, it's been a while since I've filmed live. I've actually been sick. Was afraid for a while that I had strep throat, so I went to the doctor yesterday. Don't have strep throat, but they do have me on antibiotics, which isn't the most fun thing in the world. But I basically was laid out in the bed for 3 days. I didn't see much of the sunlight or outdoors. I'm drinking straight up a gallon of water. Just, you can see I've drank about half the gallon, which is crazy. I haven't been drinking this very long tonight, and I'm already at half a gallon of water down. So yeah, that's kind of why I've been MIA. Many of you may have seen the new series that we started on the channel, the Millionaire Mentor Motivation videos. Really good videos. I'm enjoying doing those. Have a bunch of other ones that I want to do. We just uploaded tonight was the Denzel Washington. And I'm curious, for those of you who come on these live streams fairly often, do you get notified when I upload a new video? Because when I look at the viewership on things that aren't, like, I understand how YouTube's algorithm works. Like, I've been through YouTube certification and stuff, so I get it. But it's like YouTube has basically told me, yeah, dude, if you make anything but this one type of content, you can basically take it to the bank. We're not going to show it to too many of your people. So So Pascal says, yes, I get notified. So I imagine, Pascal, you're subscribed, but you also clicked on the bell to get notified. Did you do that? Because what I'm curious about is, for those of you who don't click to be notified when my videos come out, do you see when I make uploads? Because I upload every single day for the most part. So I'm curious, like that series is really, really good, and I'd like to get more of my subscriber base who like the personality type videos to watch that, because I think it would be really encouraging for some of the challenges that you all face. Like I do have a new INFP video that I'm going to be doing here hopefully this weekend, just about some stuff that I've come across. Settlement says, yeah, I'm a bell clicker too. LOL. Some things that I've been seeing in the INFP communities that I'm a member of, that something specifically that I saw that was a comment by a guy in the group, and it was depressing. I was like, Jesus, is this normal for INFP guys? So I want to address that. I want to address how they can overcome the depressing thing. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't want to just make that type of content on the channel. I want to be able to make other things and have you all see them. But yeah, so what questions do you all have for me tonight? It's kind of a small group tonight. I know I'm broadcasting on a Friday night, which is, you know, most people on YouTube are younger, and I know you all still have social lives. You haven't been married for 15 years and have a gang of children like I do. So you may still have a social life. I said goodbye to social life about 10 years ago. That's social life. It's so funny. People are like, hey, did you see the new? No, of course I didn't see it. I got kids, yo. I didn't see anything. Alicia says, I've been married 26 years. She has me beat. Awesome. Congratulations. Infinite Game says, my view count has dropped a lot in the last week or so. Not sure how to turn it around with the algorithm being based on view count and watch time. So I can't really answer what would be a good strategy, because your view count could be affected by a number of things. So if you're not aware already, YouTube has kind of an ebb and flow cycle where there's certain times of the year, certain situations where you're just naturally going to get more viewership. So you'll notice as we go into the fall and people start spending more time indoors, you'll notice that your watch time probably goes up quite a bit. When people are out and about and at the beach and partying in the sun and on the boats and doing fun outdoor things, outdoorsy things, your YouTube viewership can start to trickle off a little bit. And then you'll notice in the fall and then going into the winter, it starts to pick back up when people are more inclined to be indoors and be bored and want to watch something. And a week of downtime is not really, I don't think it's a big enough sample size. But what I would look at immediately is, are you still making the same content you were making when your viewership was up? Did you change your content? So for example, when I started doing my the Daily Bravo series regularly, when I started doing it every day, you can trace, literally, you can trace a downward decline in subscribership day over day. So basically subscribership was starting to take off, and then I started the daily blog, daily vlog, and subscribership just, right? And it's very much tied to the fact that those videos get a lot less watch time. They get in front of a lot less people because of that, and thus give me less opportunities to get more subscribers. So even though my subscribership is up, the daily vlog has hurt that in a lot of ways, because I wasn't making daily personality type videos like I was when my subscribership was going through the roof. So I would look at, are you still doing the same things that were getting you the views? And then if yes is the answer, then it's, well, maybe you need to change it up, or maybe it's just this week people had other crap to do and just aren't paying attention to you. But look at it over the course of a month, and then look at it over the course of 90 days and evaluate it that way. So I have more than enough data on my daily vlog to understand that my daily vlog does not drive viewership. It does not drive subscribership whatsoever. It blesses the few hundred people that actually watch it, but the large majority of my subscriber base could not care less. So what I'm having to evaluate is, when my Musashi series is over, do I go back to doing the daily vlog, or do I go in some different directions? So that's why I experiment all the time, like with the Millionaire Mentor motivation videos. I'm going to see how those do. Over the course of a couple of months, I'll do it. sporadically. I don't plan to put them on a schedule. I'll just film them and upload them, and if they get traction, the beautiful thing about those videos is they're also what's called evergreen content. So people can find those videos through suggested search, or excuse me, suggested videos. I designed them specifically to be able to piggyback off of other popular videos. Piggybacking is a tactic that I teach in our marketing, in our Social Media Ninja Academy. It's a tactic that I teach for new channels. Instead of trying to get a viral video, because that's a very hard formula to pull off, depending, especially like a person like me I don't make viral content for the most part. I make like daily life, how do we win at daily life, kind of mundane stuff that doesn't, like, a billion people aren't, a billion people want to watch Gangnam Style. A billion people don't want to learn how to set goals properly. At least not in a short amount of time. Over 50 years, a billion people will watch a lot of these videos. But it's evergreen content, which means it will always be relevant. A lot of the content I make will always be relevant, so it's always going to have a chance to show up in suggested videos and to show up in different searches that people are making. So we'll see. We'll see. I may not go back to doing the daily vlog. I may take it in another direction. The Musashi series has been marginally successful, so I may do other series with other books that have lists that I can turn into kind of, it's not like a let's play for books, basically. So yeah, it just depends on it. So, and that's what I'm saying, is it depends on what you're doing, and is it what you've been doing when you were winning? Did you change something, etc., etc., etc.? I think you get the point. Let's see. Dark Feather says, I post COD and Gwent, but I made a schedule and stuck with it. Infinite Game says, I'm actually doing more of the good stuff. Thanks, I'll keep an eye on it. Bro, I love these daily Bravos. Those are great. Terry says, what's up, BC? What's up, Terry? Good to see you, bud. Good to see you, buddy. Pascal says, is it a psychological disorder if someone wants to be treated in a degrading way in a relationship, or is it just a preference? Pascal, I don't know who that was directed at. Jenna Jones says, I've been watching your videos for the past week and they have helped me a lot. I'm an ENFP and my boyfriend is an INFP. I was wondering how, in your opinion, our cognitive functions work together. So for an ENFP, let's refresh my memory, because I don't have ENFP memorized off the top of my head. I do have INFPs memorized because I talk about them all the time. So you're a Nephi. Interesting. So yeah, you guys are, there's some balance there because you're inverted. So your INFPs are going to lead with introverted feeling, the decision-making process that's based on personal value, and then move into extroverted intuition. You lead with extroverted intuition and then move into introverted feeling. So yeah, I think your cognitive functions can be pretty well balanced. I think where some of the challenges you may run into exist is on like the day-to-day mundane. Like you both are great at being like, you have a dreamer that you're in a relationship with, and you're kind of what's the word I would use, like you're an idealist, encouraging person, so you all probably get along very well. I just wonder if either one of you has the intestinal fortitude to really hunker down and stay focused on a thing long enough to become successful at it. So some of the mundane parts of the relationship can be challenging for both of you, because you have, like, my wife has these, as an ENFJ, my wife has these ideas of, I had these fantasies and these, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, Jack, but listen, we got kids, Jack. I'm gonna take a nap. And there's a lot of things about marriage that are not romantic. And so if both of you having kind of a romantic approach to the way you look at things, one of you's got to be the practical person at some point. So that can be somewhat challenging. But it doesn't have to be. They're all things that you can develop. Infinite Games. Yeah, I schedule everything. Two Dark Feathers. Terry says ESFJ. Feels like the world is filled with these people. I don't know a ton of ESFJs. I know one in particular, and she's awesome. She's a really cool person. She and I have a lot of discussions about personality types, actually. I don't know that I know a lot of other. Most of the people, because I'm trying to think, do I have an ESFJ in my family? My mom is an ISFJ. Or actually, my mom might be an ISFP. She borderlines. I have a lot of feelers in my family. I don't know that we have a ton. My brother for sure is an ISFJ. I don't know if we have any ESFJs because we have a lot of intuitors in the family. Actually, my grandmother might be an ESFJ now that I'm thinking about it. But I think she might also be a P. Cool. Cool. What other questions you guys have? You guys are quiet tonight, man. Usually I can't keep up with the feed because you guys ask so many questions. Which is not a complaint, by the way. It's a good problem to have. Let's see. KDX says, "Hi, Bryant. I am wondering, what is your opinion on age gaps in romantic relationships? I'm 39 and the girlfriend is 25, but we get along well. Is that odd?" I mean, odd is, I don't think it's my place necessarily to tell you that it's odd. What I can tell you is that at 39, you have lived a lot of life that she hasn't yet. And I've seen other people try to do something similar. And the challenges I always see with the older person relating to the younger person is that the younger person just hasn't been through as much life yet, and they still live, what's the right word? They still live this somewhat untethered life. They don't have necessarily the social responsibility that a 39-year-old is going to have to sticking to schedules and, communicating. And part of that may just be the person, not the age. I think when I was 25, I could have very easily dated a person that was 39 because if your maturity is where it is, there's things that I would not have experienced as a 25-year-old person, but certainly being able to build a relationship is something that I've always been good at. So I don't think it's necessarily odd. If it's working, you're both happy and there's no problems, cool. I would just be on the lookout for challenges between person who's lived, you've been on earth 14 years longer than this person, so you have 14 years potentially of experiences that she just can't really understand or know. But she may be 25 and have lived a lot of life too, been through a lot of things. So it's, without more details, it's really hard for me to make that determination. I don't think it's necessarily odd. 14 years is a pretty big gap, especially when you start thinking about, do you want to have children? And does she want to have children? And if she doesn't want to have children until she gets older, now you're in your 40s when you're starting to have kids, so those are things I would like in your position. I wouldn't worry so much about it being odd as I would the practical parts of the relationship. If this is something long term that you're looking at, what are the practical challenges you're both going to have to work through? Have you all talked about those practical things? And are you on the same page? Terry says, "I bet you're getting fed up with these Myers-Briggs terms now." No, I actually really, really enjoy talking about psychology and personality types, which is why I started doing it on the channel, because I knew if it took off, it's something that I can talk about till I fall asleep. Like I can talk personality stuff till I'm blue in the face and still enjoy it. Like literally, was it last year? Was it last Christmas? I think it was last Christmas. I made the whole, because we all get together at my mom's house and my grandmother's house, and I made everybody in the house, it became like a game. Everybody in the house was on their phones taking a Myers-Briggs test and then sharing their results with each other. Like, that's why I hate you, because you're that. Like, you know, I'm joking. Nobody hates anybody in my family. But, like, everyone just, the discovery that they're like, oh, that's why I'm like this. Oh, wow, this is awesome. And it was cool, like, when I was able to actually predict what family members' personality types were, they were kind of wowed by that. Like, how were you able? I was like, because I've been studying this for years. So, yeah, man, I love this stuff. What about Hexaco? Yeah, I do want to get back into doing Hexaco stuff. I've been kind of fumbling around in my brain with how I'm going to do more Hexaco content, how I want to attack it, how I want to address it. And do I want to do it on YouTube or just keep it on Facebook? So we're working through it. Pascal says, how did you get them all to take it? I told them to take out their phones, told them what website to go to, and said, take this test and see what your results are. And they took it. Siren of the Void says, I can just imagine how fun that must be. Oh, it was freaking amazing, man. We had a blast, my whole like making my whole family take the test. And then getting to say, like, yep, this is cool, now I get it. Hey, dude, how do you whisper loud? Talking to my son. He's trying to whisper. Like, you ever notice, like, if you have children, like, hey, daddy, I'm whispering. So like, no, you're still talking loudly. You're just doing it in a whispering voice. Pascal says, you make it sound so easy. People feel bothered when I ask them. Well, how do you ask them? Like with my family, I made it like a game. I was like, yo, you guys need to take this test because it's really cool. It'll tell you how crazy you are. And they're like, well, I'm not crazy. I'm going to take this test to prove you wrong. So with my family, I made it like a game. And they were all in. And it's contagious. Once one person did it and they're like, yo, then it wasn't just me. It was like the whole family started sharing it with each other. Became kind of viral. Senelin says, in a large loving family, yeah, that would be so fun. Yeah, it was. It was funny because that was the point where I was able to actually show my mother why we're polar opposites personality-wise and why we have conflict. I was like, Mom, now do you understand why it's so hard for us to deal with each other? Not like in a bad, like I love my mom. She's cool and she's awesome. But we get into social conflicts a lot of times. And, you know, I was like, this is why, because we're wired very differently. Dark Feather says, what do you do when your mom doesn't really like your girl? I've never had that problem. My mom straight up told me when she met my wife, she says, I just want you to know if you do anything to ruin this marriage, we're taking her side. So that's how much my family likes my wife. So much so that if I do something to ruin, like if my wife leaves me, my mom's blaming me. Yeah, so I don't have that problem. But at the same time, I don't know what your mother is like, but mothers have intuition about things. I would not ignore the fact that your mother doesn't like your girl. If your mother is a level-headed, balanced person, she may have reason to not like your girl, and you may want to pay attention to that. Pascal says, okay, I'll try saying that crazy bit next time. April Baby says, hi, everyone. What's up, April? Infinite Game says, oh, man, same deal. My family loves my wife more than me. Straight up. And they should. My wife is a better person than I am. I'm not even, that wasn't a joke. I'm not being sarcastic. My wife is a better human being than I am. She cares about people more than I do. Like, I love people to a point, and then it's just like, all right, cool. KDX says, I'm really digging the Miyamoto vids. Why do you think there is such a fascination with samurai stuff still today? Well, I think it's the same reason we're fascinated with things like professional sports. We love to romanticize stories of people who are able to accomplish these death-defying feats. You know, watching the NFL, is captivating because you're watching men do something that's extremely hard to do for the average person. So there's a wow factor to it. Same thing like what samurai had to go through to become samurai, and most people knowing that. And samurai with a concept, I mean, their code of honor was hard. I don't know, living by a military code of honor in the United States is one thing. I don't know that I could have lived by the samurai code, like the things that govern whether or not I had to kill somebody. I don't know if I could have lived in that world. Like, you had to be a freaking gangster to be a samurai who survived. Especially as you start moving into the Edo period of Japan, where samurai are being phased out. And that's where you see like the Yakuza coming from. I just think humans love interesting stories, and I think samurai are very interesting. Pascal says, since your mom is ISFP, do you have similarities even though you're opposite from her as an ENTJ? Yeah, like we're both very loyal. ENTJs are violently loyal to a flaw. Sometimes we're loyal when we need to cut people off and we just don't do it. So I get that from my mom. She's very loving and caring. Yeah, we have a lot of things in common. She's strong as hell. My mother is a freaking gangster. So, straight up, those are the things that I admire about her. Pascal says, I heard Musashi was an ice. I love when people apply Myers-Briggs testing, which hasn't even been around 100 years, to people who lived hundreds. Like, well, William Shakespeare was an INFP. Like, how do we know that? This test didn't even exist back then. Like, I always think that, I'm not trying to make fun of you, I just think it's hilarious. Like, we find people in history that we like, and we'll apply. It's funny, like, I watch people do this on my videos where I post a picture of a famous person that's allegedly a personality type, and the butt-hurtedness, like, that person's not really an INTJ. They're like, how do you know? Like, do you have their test results at your house? Like, come on. Like, you're basing it off of what you've seen on TV. Who cares? People, Myers-Briggs people get serious, man. It's a religion. Like, it's like watching a Christian argue with an atheist. Like, I've had people scream at me, you're not even talking about the cognitive functions. Well, I have like 70 other videos where I do talk about the cognitive functions. You're just focusing on this one thing. And they get butthurt. Like, dude, if you think that I believe 100% in the Myers-Briggs test, you're fooling yourself. I think it's flawed. I think it has challenges. I think some of the questions it asks are not optimal. In fact, they border on stupidity. Like, when you get off work, what do you prefer to do? Go out to the club and dance or read a book? Like, that's what you're testing people for, extroversion? Give me a freaking break. It's stupid. So that's why I encourage taking other personality type tests and strength finders tests and the hexaco and et cetera, because I think it's an imperfect system. But people, man, you F with their vision of their Myers-Briggs, chief, they will let you know. And it's cool. Like, I'm okay with that because I'm not married to it. I've had people tell me, you're really an ESTJ. I'm like, okay, cool. I can live with that. I don't have anything against ESTJs. I said, based on what I know about myself, I don't think that's true, but maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think it's a perfect system. KDX says, why do people in the same family have different personality types? Shouldn't they pretty much be the same? So what scientists have been trying to do in more recent years is tie biology to psychology, so things we can actually measure. So for example, if you are high in testosterone, like me, there's certain personality traits that you're going to be more predisposed to having. And I think, like, if you're on Match.com, their personality type test is built on some of that theory. And there's also this idea of evolutionary stable strategy. So if the entire Earth was all ISTJs, we'd never make progress. Like, it would just be straight up, let's just keep the factory going. So in order for humans to evolve socially, and I'm not talking about just biological evolution, whether you believe in that or not, it's more along the lines of we are constantly evolving and becoming better and better equipped. And for us to move forward, I think you need it. It's almost like they've tried to prove why the earth has psychopaths. Because in an evolutionary stable society, having those people, those rule breakers, if you will, exist does in some, almost backwards way help the society progress. So like Benjamin Franklin could arguably be a psychopath because of some of the experiments he was doing on dead bodies, which was illegal. But look at what it led to in the world of medicine, and autopsy and things like that. So does the ends justify the means? I don't know. I'm not his judge and I'm not God. But having different personality types is the best way that humans in group setting, in tribal setting, not everybody can be the warrior. Somebody's got to cook the food. Somebody's got to make the clothes. Somebody's got to build the systems for the village, right? Not everybody can be out hunting. So that's kind of the best explanation I've heard people bring to the table, and I'm combining a bunch of different explanations to make that point. But that's why I think if it truly is a genetic thing that our personalities are partially hard-coded, they're not just learned. I think a lot of our personality types, or what we call personality type, is learned. And I think it's experiential. I believe wholeheartedly in the ancient proverbs, actually a biblical proverb, that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I truly believe you can psych yourself into believing whatever you want about yourself and actually become that to a degree. But so I do think some of our personality is us kind of projecting ourselves and what we want to be. But if any part of it is genetic, then I think genetically it's the best way humans have survived, by differentiating. Infinite Game says, I like when I'm the same personality type as fictional characters Michael Scott. Michael Scott. Pascal says, you're definitely not an ESTJ. If you were an ESTJ, I wouldn't get along with you at all. Well, that's not necessarily true. The point is, regardless of what letter code you want to give me, I think that we can build in an adaptive nature to where, like, my behavior adjusts based upon who I'm around. So there are times where I've been around people where they thought I was a feeler because I'm adjusting my behavior to what I'm reading about the audience, to make the situation more agreeable for them. So yeah, there's things that I've done that are totally what an ESTJ would be like, but I think at my core, I definitely am not. And I just met an ESTJ recently who I completely misread. Like, I knew she was a T and a J, but I read her as an N. And she was a straight up ESTJ. Pascal says, but the hunters are cool. Sentinel says, like Jordan Peterson has observed, conservatives preserve and maintain, liberals innovate and change. We need both to make social progress. Yep. Terry says, because no matter how nice I try to be with some people, not everyone is going to get along. Yeah, some people are just not destined to get along with each other. I think the sooner humans figure that out and we stop this experiment of, okay, everyone needs to play nice in the sandbox. Like, no, we don't. It's just some of us aren't going to like each other. And it's okay. You don't have to like everybody, man. Like, I don't know where the notion came from. Like, we all have to get along. No, we don't. Like, I think if we stop trying to force people to get along, like, I made a joke one time where I was like, if we could just give states to different groups of people, I think America would be a lot happier. Like, straight up. Like, just give Alabama to the Hillsborough Baptist Church cross-burning people and walk away. And then everyone that doesn't want to do that goes to a different place. Like, instead of trying to force those people to change, because they're not, that ignorance is not changing. Like, no amount of our preaching or showing them that they're wrong is going to change that. Just give them like an island somewhere where they can have all their little burning things and not bother. Like, I just think the world would be happier if we let people be with the people they like being with. and stop trying to force. We have to learn how to get along. No, we really don't. Just all those people, Alabama. That's your new house. Bam, right? And then all the progressive and liberal and the people that walk around barefoot, Portland. That's yours. You got it. You're in Portland, and just be cool and just Portland it off. And the people like me who can get along, and well, I don't know that I would get along with cross-burning people because they protested a football game one time. I'm like, I can't put up with these people today. I don't want to have to choke somebody out. But the person like me who can at least refrain from choking someone to death for 5 seconds, like I could bounce between different cities. But yeah, just like let everybody, the cross-dressing and the Portland, the cross-burning Alabama, like just stop trying to make everybody get along. And the joke is obviously you can't do that. And I have a lot of friends either from or living in Alabama who would not be happy about that suggestion. But the point is, this idea that we're all going to get along, I just don't think it's real. I think we've got thousands of years of human history to figure out we're just not all going to get along. At some point, we just need to accept the fact that I'm not going to like this person or this person's not going to like me for whatever reason, or my own prejudices or insecurities or whatever, and stop trying to force us to change that and just let us hang out with the people who we like. So, I don't know. Terry says, the internet exists for one reason, to express your true self without having to deal with society's expectations. Funny thing is, the funny thing is he probably could choke somebody out. Leave all the angry people in bed. People in Philly are angry. That is true. I held the door open for this dude, and I couldn't tell if he was angry because I was black or if he just hated his life. Like, it just, because he was straight up out of the 70s. Like, he had a jean jacket and like denim jacket with the fur, and he's just an old angry white dude. And I was like, am I in the not black people neighborhood? Because I think I was in South Philly, so I don't know. It's just, he was angry. And I held the door for him, like, here you go, homeboy. And he was just like, if I could choke you right here and get away with it, I would. And I couldn't read his hate. I was like, is he not like tall ethnic people? Or is he just angry at his existence? Or is he mad about this stupid 1970s denim jacket he's wearing? Because I would have been angry about it. Like, if my mom made me wear that out of the house and I was 50 years old, I'd be walking around mean mugging people too. Infinite Game says, I always hear this type or that type is rare. Is there actually any personality type that's rare, or does it just depend on who's in your social circle? So there's books and studies that have shown that, like, the INFJ is the most rare personality type. Is it 100% accurate? Probably not. I think people like the idea of being part of something that's unique, so they're happy to say, I'm like, my personality type allegedly is 2 to 5% of the population. So we're rare as well. I don't know for sure. I can say I've met quite a few other ENTJs. I don't know very many INFJs in real life. I know some, but in my experience, they are rare. In my experience, the N and the S is kind of 50-50. The T and the F is kind of 50-50. Extrovert, introvert's kind of 50-50. It's when you start putting them all together where it gets kind of funky. Settler says mad at what his mom did. His mom had to dress him. He was dressed like it was the 70s. Come on, man. No. You're not coming out of the house with the denim jacket with the fur on the inside of it. You didn't pick that. Somebody gave you that. Like at the work release program, I don't know what he was doing. But nobody bought that. He didn't buy that jacket after 1974. It's not possible. Which means he's still the same size as he was in 1974. So yeah. KDX says, I find people really hate happy people. For me, it's becoming a daily battle just to deal with so many angry people. For me, I surround myself with happy people. I'm not really around angry people very often. The overly emotional female says, what's up, what's up, what's up? What's up? Infinite Game says, LMAO, his mom makes him wear the jacket. Come on, man, you're not coming out that. He didn't pick that jacket. He was given, like, you're wearing this today. Pascal says Philly is crazy. I don't really have a problem with Philly. The few times I've been there, I actually enjoyed it, except for the old jean jacket, mean mugging guy whose mom dressed him before he left the house. Hello from Mexico, says Nadia. Hello, Nadia. Overly emotional female says, I think it's hard to believe that people are legitimately happy. Well, happiness is a choice. I think what a lot of people don't realize about happiness is that it's not a thing that happens once something else happens. It's you choose it. There's people who've been through insane tragedy that just choose to be happy. They choose to let that experience make them stronger instead of tear them apart. It's funny, a lot of people that I see that are unhappy are more privileged people than people who struggle. You know, I used to work with the homeless quite a bit in a previous career, and you know, they were some of the nicest, sweetest, like, hey, coolest people. You know, it was the freaking business owners that were so tired of them coming around their businesses that were the angry ones. Terry says, anyways, I'm going, so see you. See you, man. I know it's late where you are, dude. It's like freaking 4 in the morning. Get some sleep. Infinite Game says, I just picture this 100-year-old lady dressing a 50-year-old bald dude. Now, he actually had hair. He wasn't bald. Pouring in milk, tying his shoes. He actually had some locks, man. He had nice hair. And a weird tan, like he worked in a coal mine. Like, I wasn't sure if he was tan or just dirty. Was that long enough for an awkward silence? Did you think your internet froze? Philip Romney says, have you read The Subtle Art of Not... Yeah, I actually talked about that book in a video from a couple weeks ago. It's a pretty good book. Centerland says, oh, that's Paulie. Everyone knows Paulie. Overly emotional female says, I was thinking, this dude seems out of gas. I just wanted to see how long I could hold the silence before it got awkward. Philip says, I'm reading it now. It's dope. Yeah, it is dope. Matter of fact, is it on my shelf? I think it's upstairs. I have books all over my house. I sleep around books. I have books in my bags. I have books on my... And like, you can't see off camera, like there's these 2 bookshelves, there's a whole other shelf here, and then there's another shelf over there next to my fireplace. Actually, I'll just show it to you. So you got that shelf, and part of the shelf is covered up with my whiteboard here, and then you got this other shelf over there next to my G.I. Joe character, which my brother bought me after the war, and then the delicious fireplace with the samurai sword that a good friend of mine gave me for building his website many, many years ago. Do I have a photographic memory? I don't know. You must be killer at speed reading. I'm not bad at speed reading. Bryant, do you think aging changes your personality? I think when I was younger, I was more, yeah, I do. And I don't think it's necessarily the aging process so much as it's just life experience. I can't remember where I heard it, but I have heard that we extroverts tend to get less extroverted as they get older, and that's definitely been true for me. I used to test max extrovert, like just straight up no introversion. As I've gotten older, I've become more and more introverted. And part of that has to do with the fact that as you learn more and you grow and you realize, like, I do a lot to personally and professionally develop myself. Like, I do hundreds of hours of coaching and training. Not me coaching, I do that too, but me getting coached and learning and taking courses. I do hundreds of hours every year. So I learn a lot and I grow a lot, and then I realize most other people are not doing that. So it's a lot of times as you learn and you grow, it gets harder to socialize just generally, because you're just in a different space than a good portion of the rest of the world. So I have a tendency, like, I don't like let's go to happy hour, and just, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to hang out with cool people. I do. It's just I don't really get much out of that. Like, I prefer things that are more intellectually stimulating and less socially stimulating. Like, if you've ever heard Ty Lopez talk about his personality type test that he invented, which I thought was really cool. In some of his paid programs, he goes into a lot more detail about how it works. And I'm hoping he'll actually build like a course around it where people can actually be tested. And when I look at the way my personality type shakes out, I am social. The social aspect of my personality type is one of my weaker fields. So, like with my business, for example, I brought in a business partner that's highly social, and he's talking to everything. Yeah, I'm talking, and I'm going to this. So what that does is it forces me to go to social events because he's always going to them. So if I know he's going, he'll pull me along so I can go there, meet people. And once I'm in a social situation, I'm a freaking social butterfly. It's going to it. So yeah, I do think your personality type can adjust over time. If it's true that, and I don't think there's really a such thing as an extrovert or an introvert. I think you have a certain level of extroversion. So I like the way the Hexacode test tests for how extroverted you are, not whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. I think there's introverted traits, like even if you look at the cognitive functions in the Myers-Briggs, you have certain traits that are introverted. So I think it's very plain to see that you are an extrovert and an introvert. But I've leaned more on introverted behavior as I've gotten older. In a social situation, I will be very talkative and meet people and, hey, how are you? But I won't necessarily volunteer to go to social situations that don't have some type of intellectual benefit. Like, the social situations I go to are, hey, we have an opportunity to go meet Joel Salatin on his farm. Do you want to do that? Yep. Because if I get around that guy, I'm just going to be smarter. It's just simple as that. Like, if you've ever heard him speak, I was watching one of his talks at Google from about 6 years ago that I'm actually going to use in my Millionaire Mentor Motivations series. I'm going to do a Joel Salatin video. And I'm going to talk about some things that he shared with me when I met with him. Literally, I got smarter just from being on his farm for a couple hours and listening to him talk to us. So, yeah. Overly emotional female says, reading has never been my forte, but then again, I was never disciplined enough to read much. So instead of reading, either listen to books through like Audible or watch videos. No one said you got to actually read it. Alicia says, I think events in your life you go through can change you. Yep. Or at the very least, they can change your perspective. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it, says Senelin. Yep. Nadia says, do you think an INFP can work as an interpreter? Sure. And by the way, I think any personality type, depending on how you are predisposed to work, can do pretty much any job. I think, you know, what these tests try to help you show is you're more likely to be good at these 20 things if you're this personality type, because that's what people throughout history have done. But there's no reason why you couldn't be successful at something if you really put your heart and soul into getting it done, you know, and you have some natural skill that leads you to be able to do it. I think I saw earlier that you're from Mexico. Obviously, you're speaking English, so I imagine you could translate different dialects for people if you're multilingual, if you're good at it, you know, yeah. Pascal says, I have an ENTJ boss, and he is much better in a room filled with people and telling them the challenges they will face ahead than just one person, just one-on-one rapport. Interesting. There's always somebody. Always somebody got to try to do the silliness. KDX says, I find most extroverts say a lot, but don't have much to really say. But getting introverts to speak is like pulling teeth. Interesting. That's an interesting observation. I know some introverts who are more talkative than me. And I love hanging out with them because we have great conversations. I did think Mr. Cannabis's question was funny, but come on, man. It's always somebody trying to ruin the party for everybody else. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I just had to ban somebody for a stupid comment. It was a funny comment, though. Give him that. Ban Hammer Smackdown. Yep. It's just the question is so random and ridiculous. Like, what? I think some people just get a kick. It's funny because it's not like it's so hilarious to watch younger generations now talk about things that we experience, like internet trolls. Like, dude, that's been going on since forever. Like, and they're mild compared to some of the stuff I had seen back in like the AOL days when it was like AOL Messenger, and back before, like even before Microsoft had its Messenger. It got raw on those, and there was no moderation. It was basically whoever owned the group moderated it. Siren of the Void says, I def agree to that. I tend to speak only when I have something that is meaningful to say. Senelin says, age, sex, location. Yep, you know the deal. God, that was hilarious. And I remember we had chat bots. We had chat bots back then that could post stuff. Like, none of this stuff is new. KDX says, getting the smartest guys to speak can be hard. They just don't want to offend others or might not give value to their own thoughts. Interesting. Cool. All right, what other questions dost thou have for me tonight, good people? I'm going to check my email while you guys are still commenting, if that's okay with you all. Have you found tonight's discussion valuable? All right, looks like no new emails have come in. Turn that off. Let's see. Pascal says, my ENTJ boss always looks uncomfortable around me, like he doesn't mean to naturally intimidate me. Like he doesn't mean to, that doesn't make sense. Like he, uncomfortable around you, like he doesn't mean to, I don't understand what you're trying to say there. He's uncomfortable because he's trying not to intimidate you? Ryan Button. Then you have those that think too much about what others think of them. Yeah, Siren of the Void says, I feel I could relate to that, Pascal. Okay, so Siren of the Void understood your comment, but I don't think I do. You said your ENTJ boss always looks uncomfortable around you, like he doesn't mean to so are you saying he isn't, like, he's intimidating you, but he's trying not to intimidate you? And that's making him uncomfortable because he's trying to adjust himself? Because that would make sense. All right. Looks like my phone's going to cut off here in a minute because even though I have it plugged in, the battery's still dying. I don't know what that's all about. KDX says, I find all your vids valuable, even if they don't directly relate to me, then help me with family and my coworkers. Sweet. So yeah, when I'm done here, I've got to, so when we're done chatting tonight, I've got to edit. I did like a 3-hour call. Oh yeah, I didn't get to tell you guys. There's another YouTuber that I had a 3-hour call with last weekend who we're going to be doing some work together here in the near future. But I recorded our conversation when we met, and I think I'm going to break some of that up into videos for you guys. There's some interesting personality type conversation, interesting marketing. He's another entrepreneur like me. He's got a really interesting life where he travels the world and lives in different places. And he does a lot of what I do. Like we're actually looking at doing coaching together. So that's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to having him on the channel and having you all go check out his work because I think what he does is actually really good. And so I got to edit the video tonight because then I have to be up early tomorrow morning to help my mom move some stuff and fix her house. And then I got a call with my paying clients tomorrow. I have a paid call and stuff like that. So I want to start laying out the editing for that video so I can get those videos out hopefully next week. I got to go through it all though and figure out what do I want to show, what's actually good for YouTube. Siren of the Void says he's aware he's intimidating, but trying to be more sensitive to feelings is a bit awkward for him. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can relate to that. Alicia says, it would be interesting to see videos and his adjustment living with different cultures. Ryan says, Pascal says, he has an intimidating presence. When he talks to me, I can tell he is uncomfortable, like he thinks he has to be careful around me because he might, yeah, dude, I have to do that all the time. Oh, God. I feel your boss's pain, man. That is in some way, shape, or form a part of my everyday life. Where it's not so much that I think I'm intimidating someone else, it's that I think I'm offending other people. It's like I'm not trying to offend anybody here. I'm just trying to be cool. All right, last call for questions, friends, and then I got to do some editing, and then I got to go to bed because I got to go help my mom. Got to be a good son. Everybody be good sons to your moms, yo. They carried you for 9 months. Pixie C says, hi, INFP here. Quick college advice question. If someone was interested in video game programming, animation, etc., something that combines both art and programming, would you advise them to just go for the safe option, a general computer science degree, or risk it and get a specific degree in video game programming or animation, for example? So I don't think there's any such thing as the safe option. I think that's what our parents tell us because that's the silliness they hear on the news. You know, 100 years ago, it was safe to do one thing that's not safe to do now. So I think what I would have you do in terms of picking schools or picking what you're going to study is start with the end in mind. So what do you actually want to be doing when you go to work? Do you want to work at an independent game publisher? Do you want to go work like in one of the big firms like Electronic Arts or Activision? And work like with the crazy schedules that they have there. What do you actually want to do? Do you want to build your own games? Do you want to help another company build theirs? And as you begin to understand more specifically what it is you want to do, then you can backwards plan, okay, if I want to go work, let's say you wanted to go be a programmer. And it's interesting that you mentioned programming and animation, because those are two very different fields. Certainly there's similarities with them from a technical aspect, but they're two very different disciplines. As a computer scientist that took animation courses, I can tell you, animation is very different from what I learned in programming. But what I would want to figure out, like if I could like reverse engineer my entire life and go back to the beginning, I know what I want to do. So if I want to be like a lead animator on a big AAA title, like I want to do the next Last of Us, I want to be the next Uncharted or the next Mario Brothers or whatever it is, then I would figure out what that company needs me to have. And the way to figure that out is having a conversation with someone at that company that already works there through LinkedIn or something, and then go get the education that helps you go do that job, versus this idea of taking the safe route. Like you coming out with a computer science degree isn't necessarily going to make you competitive if you're trying to go work at Valve or Activision, because there's a lot of people, like I have a computer science degree. Nobody from Valve or Activision has called me on the phone to say, hey, we'd like you to come over here and do some stuff. The people that they want are people that have proven ability to perform. So I would get more specific about what it is you actually want to do, and then understand what education you need to actually go do that thing. Ryan Button says, what book are you reading right now? Man, let me pull it out. That's a good question. Let's get it. This is a book my business partner gave me today. Actually, I bought this book from my business partner. I like to pay for my books because I 100% believe in you don't respect what you don't pay for. So one of the reasons why I charge a fee for my coaching, for example, is because I know if I gave it away for free, and I've tested this, when you look at the people who are in my programs who pay to be there versus the people that got in for free, almost 10 times out of 10, the people that got there for free don't stick around. And they don't do the training, they don't engage, they just, oh, this is nice, I'll get to this when I want to. The person that had to pay $1,000 to get into the program is showing up every day, commenting on Facebook, asking for help. So my business partner's like, well, I'll just give you the book. I was like, no, I need to pay for it because then it'll motivate me to read it. It's How to Talk So That People Will Listen. I have a whole, and this is really cool, I have a speech that I'm going to be giving in the next 2 weeks at one of the agencies actually here in the DC area. They want creative types and designer types and people that do what I do to come in and tell stories about what it's like being in our creative field to government employees. And I'm hoping that because it's going to be at a government facility, I'm hoping that it will be releasable to the public so I can show it to you guys. But I saw this book and I was like, maybe I can sharpen my sword before I go give this speech. Because I do keynotes and stuff like that and public speaking quite a bit. But this was an interesting opportunity. A friend of mine actually who's running the event was like, dude, we need you to come speak because you're actually entertaining. And I was like, all right, sweet, I'll come do it. So yeah, that's the book I'm reading now. Infinite Game says, thanks, B, great video. I'm out. Peace. KDX says, you missed my question earlier about the era we live in affecting our personality. Do you think the internet is shaping our personalities to be too similar or making us more diverse? No, I don't think. Well, first of all, we haven't had the internet long enough to make that type of conclusion. You know, Will Durant in, I don't remember which book it was in, if it's in The World's Greatest Minds, or where's this other book that I love? Do I have it over here? Or it may be in The Lessons of History by Will Durant. Says that we spend way too much time talking about what's happened in the last 25 years instead of talking about what's happened over the last 700. So I just don't think the internet's been around long enough to make any sweeping, oh, the internet's ruining. It's not. People, it's just, the internet is just an enabler. That's all it is. It's just enabling us to be more of what we already are. So it's like the people who say money changes people. No, it doesn't. Money just allows you to be more of you. So if you're crazy, money's just going to let you be crazier. More money's going to let you be more crazy. So I don't think the internet is shaping whether we're diverse, or because I think we're still very tribal, and we are still very social creatures. So the internet, I think, was a natural progression of human social tendencies, and that this gives us a platform to be what we are, which is social creatures. I mean, Marcus Aurelius Caesar was talking about that back in 300 AD. Like, the primary thing when it comes to humans is social. And I don't think the internet is making us more or less anything. I think it's just enabling us to be what we already are. Peter Cole says, dang, you're finally streaming and I'm at work. Pascal says, what in the world is up with human psychology that makes a book like 50 Shades of Grey a bestseller? Seriously. So there's another book that you should read. It'll tell you. Oh, I'm going to pull it out of my little bag of treats. My bag of treats. You want to take it to the streets? Read this book. It'll tell you why. Riveted by Jim Davies. This tells you why things catch on the way they do. It tells you about the psychology. It tells you about how we've evolved biologically. Computer games, too, are the most fun when they consistently challenge the player enough, but not too much, and gradually increase the difficulty. So the biggest thing, and Louis C.K. talks about this too, that's why I included him in my Millionaire Mentor series. The biggest thing that gets people's attention in creativity is surprise. Period. Why do you think PewDiePie goes through a lot of the antics that he goes through on his channel when he's making videos, and he has tons of jump cuts? Because he wants you to consistently be surprised. He doesn't want you to know what's coming, because then you'll keep coming back. Like, what is he going to say next? Is he going to say the N-word or whatever it is that people are upset about? It's so hilarious. Like, the internet has this meltdown over a dude who's basically like a modern day clown. And I don't mean clown in a derogatory sense. I mean like a clown. Like, he's a modern day jester. And he says this thing on the internet and people are shocked. Like he was like the model of, he was the model of righteousness. Like, no, he wasn't. He's been this way from the jump. Like, what were you guys expecting from this dude? Ugh, it's hilarious. Anyway, but yeah, that book will definitely answer that question for you. Let's see, Jim Davies, the guy that created Garfield. I don't think that's who this is. I think that's a different guy. This dude looks a little too young to have created Garfield. Garfield's been around for a good while. I don't know. Maybe it is the same dude. Jenna Jones says, what is a definite way to tell the difference between truly loving liking someone and being infatuated with someone? So right off the bat, truly loving someone is a daily choice. Okay, so you are daily making decisions to put that person's needs, wants, desires, and well-being at the top of your priority list. That's love. Liking somebody or infatuation are the feelings that you're feeling. So where most people get hung up is that they think the thing that they feel is the love, when the thing that they feel is really just a byproduct of potentially love, but also a byproduct of infatuation. Cool. Any other questions? And for those of you that have been asking questions, were those answers sufficient? Did I get you squared away? I was especially curious to know if Pixie C was happy with the college question. Pixie, did that get you squared away? Are you satisfied with that answer? Let's see. Philip Romney says, what do you think about how you should live your 20s? That's a very general question. What do I think about how you should live your 20s? Man, that's a... How can I give general advice that would be applicable to anybody? I think without knowing you better or knowing your situation better, it's hard to answer that. I would say don't be afraid to experiment. You have a lot of time, but you don't have a lot of time. If I could change one thing about my 20s, it would be being way more proactive and aggressive in going after the things that I'm actually passionate about, instead of letting life just kind of happen. Should have started my business sooner. Should have got more focused on running my business sooner than I did. So Stephen Markle asked a question. I don't know what that means. I don't know what 3G or Canelo is. So someone's got to fill the old guy in on the young people questions. I don't know these things. I don't have a social life. Philip Romney says boxing. Yeah, I know nothing about boxing. The last time I watched a fight, I think Mike Tyson was involved in it. So it lets you know how old I am and how much I don't watch that stuff. KDX says, do you think the public school system will change fast enough to keep up with the demands? No, I don't. Not will it. It hasn't kept up at all. Not even close. I mean, we're still using the Socratic method to teach. No, I think the public school system is a Band-Aid at this point. What I tell people all the time is educate your kids outside of school. Period. And that's not a hit against the wonderful people who are out there teaching. My kids have had amazing teachers whom I respect, whom I volunteered and worked with in many cases. But I think the system that these teachers find, and matter of fact, one of my neighbors, one of my favorite people on this earth, is an educator. And this is in a previous house that I lived in and that I sold. But he and I used to, I mean, we'd sit out on our porch some Friday nights just like this. I wish I was on YouTube then, because we'd hang out till 3 in the morning just talking about the world and the systems and the challenges and what he was experiencing as a teacher, what I was experiencing getting my business started and working, and just the challenges we were facing, and some of the stuff he told me about just being in the school system and things that he came up against with really trying to educate his kids and not being allowed to do it in a way that he thought was best because of the way the system was structured. It was just very interesting. I had a lot of respect for him to get up every day and go do those things. And when he walked away from being an educator and then eventually I think went back to it, it was just really inspiring to watch the fight that he went through to, like, look, we have to take care of these kids and we're not doing it. So no, I don't think the public school system is going to evolve. And I just, people have been talking about, like, this public school system discussion is not new, right? Like, people have been talking about how lacking the public school system is since the 1800s. Like, it's not a new discussion. So what most highly successful people figured out is that you need supplemental education. In fact, this is something I learned in the military, was if you want to be really good physically, you can't just rely on the training we're doing every morning when we go run or do push-ups or whatever it is we do for the day. If you want to be in tip-top shape, you have to work out outside of work. And I think school's the same way. I think school does a lot of things well. I think it's a structured way to get information. I don't think some of the things school teaches, I think some of the things the kids need to be taught, they're not learning at school. And it's just incumbent upon the parents to make sure that those things are being taught, which is something that I do with my kids and the life lessons that I teach them. So I'm not necessarily looking for the school to evolve, and I'm not putting the onus on the school system to properly educate my kids. I think that onus is first and foremost on the parents. And I flipped it where school is supplemental education for my kids and they're getting their primary education from me. So no, I don't think it'll evolve, and I don't think it's designed to evolve by the nature of how it was established and why our school system was established. I don't think it was designed to prepare kids for the future. I think the kids that'll get prepared for the future will either go to institutions of higher learning, or they'll apprentice under people and get really good at something and do it that way. Cool. All right. Last questions, friends. Get them in. Get them in. Last 3 questions. That was a great question, by the way, KDX. Nadia says, how can I boost my confidence? So I shot a video, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Confidence comes from competence. So if you're trying to boost your confidence in a specific area, you want to get really good at it. So whatever you may feel kind of insecure about, get really good at it. So for example, let's say that you lack confidence in social situations. Then do it afraid. Go put yourself in social situations where you are then forced to have conversations and develop the ability to communicate to the point where you get so good at it and you do it so much that it just becomes natural. And one of the things I highly recommend for people, introverts, extroverts, doesn't matter, is go on meetup.com and go to Toastmasters and just be in the room with the other people and learn the ways to do public speaking. Because they're going to put you in situations where you have to do public speaking in front of people you just met today, and it's embarrassing, and it's kind of nerve-wracking for people. Like, I love public speaking, so it doesn't bother me. I get amped up for it. But, throw yourself into the situations and develop competence, and from that competence, you'll develop more confidence. So do you think we as a society will be able to close the knowledge gaps, or are we doomed? No, I don't think we're doomed. I fall into the Mark Zuckerberg school of thought that I'm very optimistic about the future of humanity. I think we're wired biologically and psychologically to focus on negative things, but we've never had prosperity like we have today in history. We've never had access to resources like we did. We've never had access to resources in history the way we do today. I think by and large, we're getting smarter, not dumber, regardless of what the internet might lead you to believe. I think people in general are getting smarter and becoming more adaptable. I'm really encouraged to see what my children's generation is going to do on this earth, because if you think about it, my kids have basically been raised in a society where my oldest lived through a huge market crash and then the fallout from that, and then watched the market come back. And then in his lifetime, there's never not been war. So there's that. And he knows his dad was in a war before he was born. So there's that. There's, my mother-in-law living with us. So we have this kind of tribal village thing going on where we're used to living in spaces with a lot of people. So I'm really encouraged to see what my son's generation is going to come up with, because they're going to have access to so much information and knowledge and so much resource to do things with it. And they're just genuinely, they want to do good. Even the younger millennials, who I call myself like the internet's big brother to, there's so much altruism there. Like, they want to build businesses that do good. They don't want their business to become like Sony and piss on their customers for 50 years and then wonder why they're almost bankrupt by putting out substandard products. So they want to do good. They want to use business to do good things in the world. So no, I don't think by any stretch we're doomed. I'm very optimistic about what is to come. When I look at the things like what Jeff Bezos is doing, he's forcing change that's been on the precipice for many years, buying Whole Foods, which is essentially he's going to put brick and mortar grocery stores out of business to a degree. I don't think it'll completely go away. But this idea on every corner you'll have a shopping mall or pick your favorite grocery store, I think that day's gone, and we will get used to having more personalized shopping experiences online. So I think those are all good things. I don't think I don't think there will. I think people have access now. Like, think about, I run, basically my business centers on education. So I run a social media marketing agency, right? So I do work for clients and help them get more clients and make more money. I have a social media marketing course where I coach specifically on YouTube, Facebook, and how to build websites, right? And then I'm building a 69 Pillars of Success program, which I'm hoping will launch by November, where you can get all of this knowledge, things that I've taken from the military, things that I've taken from Fortune 500 experience, things my mentors have taught me, and giving people access to knowledge that you would have had to basically, like when I grew up, I would have a shelf full of encyclopedias. That's where I went to get information about the Edo period in Japan. Now I can just literally go wikipedia.org and I'm in there. Right, so no, I don't think we're doomed at all. I think we have a tendency, especially in prosperous countries, to focus on the negative because it's just how we're wired. But no, in no way, shape, or form do I think we're doomed. Philip says, do you think businesses can thrive long-term in a new niche industry? I don't know. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we go forward and more people start to own businesses, the need to get into a niche is going to become more important. So look at YouTube as a microcosm of that. In order to get some traction on YouTube now to see growth, think of YouTube as if it's you started a business on YouTube and I started a business. We both started YouTube channels and we're in competition with one another. It's in my favor to focus on a niche because YouTube can run better ads. Like, I don't run ads on my channel, so that doesn't necessarily apply. But YouTube wants to serve an audience very specific content from a channel that it can't get on another channel. It wants to have that diversity. And this principle is not new. Like, if you've ever been in the shopping mall business, which I got a taste of in my Fortune 500 experience, you learn about something they call the retail mix. So you don't want to have a shopping mall that's all the same stores. You want someone to be able to come in and see a Forever 21 and a GameStop and a Bed Bath & Beyond. You want to have these diverse shopping opportunities to bring in the people you want to come there and shop, right? But so that when people are coming there to shop, they've got opportunities. I'm going to go to Bed Bath & Beyond to get this, and I'm going to go to GameStop to go get this. I wouldn't want a bunch of stores all selling the same things, because then they're going to compete with each other, and inevitably, why would anybody come to my mall? Why would anybody go to store number 1 when store number 2 has the exact same things? And YouTube's not really much different than that. I don't want to have a million channels that are all serving the same exact type of content. I want your channel to give me an experience that's different from what I can get on a PewDiePie or a Markiplier or a Jenna Marbles, or fill in the blank with the famous people. YouTube wants your channel to be able to serve up something that's different and unique, because then more people will be inclined to get it from you because they're already getting the PewDiePie, the Jenna Marbles is what I'm trying to say if I can speak English tonight. They're already getting that experience from someone else. Jenna Jones says, thank you very much. I've been in a previous relationship where it was almost entirely infatuation, and we tried to control and fix each other. It was as unhealthy as you can imagine. I can imagine. I have been there. Jenna Jones says, that was a few years ago, and I've matured since then. Excellent. KDX says, thanks for answering my questions, and keep up the good work. You are truly informative and engaging. Thank you, KDX. That's a blessing to hear. Jenna Jones says, my current relationship has a strong foundation, and we are very happy together. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Very, very glad. Cool. Well, friends, I think we've done it again. I think we've had a successful hangout. Less people attended this one tonight, and I know